Okay, let's have the first function of lipids. Okay, so it could be the energy storage lipid. For this function, we have lipid known as triacylglycerol or TAG. So ito yung lipid. Triacylglycerol could also be called as triglyceride, and they are found in adipose tissues containing adipocytes, could be under the skin, in abdominal cavity, or in mammary glands. So they are more efficient at energy storing rather compared to glycogen. Kung maalala natin, glycogen is a carbohydrate, polysaccharides. Okay? So, parehas sila ng function, energy storage, but mas efficient daw ang triacylglycerol compared to glycogen. And of course, triacylglycerol is the most abundant lipid in the human body. Now, the structure of triacylglycerol should be, so dapat meron tayong glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Okay? And this fatty acid will be connected to the glycerol through ester linkage. Okay? So this is the triacylglycerol part, and individually these are the 3 fatty acids connected through ester linkage. Now, so elaborate lang natin. So triacylglycerol is a lipid formed by esterification. So ito yung process niya. Esterification happens if a glycerol, so this is a glycerol, is reacting with 3 fatty acids. Ito yung tatlong fatty acids natin. Okay, so triacylglycerol, nasabi natin kanina, it is also known as triglyceride or the triester of glycerol. If you're going to look at the structure of glycerol, meron siyang tatlong hydroxyl group. So this is an alcohol. So a triol. So meron siyang tatlong hydroxyl group. These 3 hydroxyl group will be the site of reaction or site of esterification kung saan maa-attach yung tatlong hydroxyl group ng fatty acids. Okay, so this hydroxyl group is actually a part of the carboxyl functional group of the fatty acids. So the mechanism of esterification, so the hydrogen coming from the the glycerol rather, the hydrogen, individual hydrogen coming from this hydroxyl group, okay, and the hydroxyl group of the fatty acid, which is actually part of the carboxyl naman, okay, will form bond, okay, so matatanggal sila. The hydrogen will be removed from the glycerol, the hydroxyl group will be removed from the fatty acids, and then they will join together to form the water. So water is H2O or HOH. So yan, magsasama sila. And because of this removal, the removal of these atoms from this individual glycerol and 3 fatty acids, magkakaroon na ng linkage between the oxygen, so the remaining oxygen of this hydroxyl group, and the carbon atom of the carbonyl or of the carboxyl group originally from the fatty acid. So sila naman ang magbabond kasi natanggal na itong hydrogen and hydroxyl respectively. Okay? So with that, so this is originally the glycerol having the hydrogen being removed, and then this is the individual fatty acid with hydroxyl removed from the carboxyl. Okay? So, yan na. Ito na ang tawag natin sa bond na ito ay ester linkage, the C double bond OO. So, if you could still recall, esters has an alcohol part and an acid part. So, yan yung naaral natin sa organic chem. So, for this triacylglycerol, meron siyang alcohol part which is the glycerol and the acid part which is the fatty acid. Okay, so this is the ester linkage. Okay? And of course, as a side product of this esterification, meron tayong tatlong molecules ng water. Bakit tatlo? Kasi nga, ito yung tatlong water molecules na nagsama after esterification. However, we only have one triacylglycerol produced. So, ulitin natin. For the esterification of fatty acid to glycerol, it could only produce one triacylglycerol. Ito yon. Okay? So this is only one molecule of triacylglycerol and of course, three molecules of water. Okay, so triacylglycerol, nagkakabit na sila. Itong mga fatty acids, nakakabit na siya dun sa backbone na glycerol. Okay? So we have types. According to the fatty acid present, we have simple triacylglycerol. This is a type of triacylglycerol wherein the glycerol will have three identical fatty acid molecules. However, this is rare to exist in nature. So, pag sinabing simple, lahat ng fatty acids na naka-attach dito sa glycerol natin ay pare-parehas ang bilang ng carbon atom. Identical sila. At pare-parehas din yung bonding. So, walang magkakaiba. Now, when we say mix triacylglycerol, of course, the glycerol will have more than one kind of fatty acid molecule. So let's have the example here. So kung titignan natin dito, this is the glycerol part and this is the fatty acid part. If you could see, yung fatty acid dito ay pare-parehas ng bilang, pare-parehas din sila ng saturation. Okay, with that, it is classified as simple triacylglycerol. Now, for the mixed triacylglycerol, so we have again the glycerol and the acid part connected together. However, the identity of the fatty acids being used or being attached to the glycerol are different. So, ito, fatty acid na to ay 18-0 fatty acid. So, we recall ano ibig sabihin ng 18-0, 18 carbon atom and 0 double bond. So dito, ito ay pare-parehas. These are 18, 0. 18 yan. Sa pagbilang natin, huwag natin kalilimutan yung carbon atom that bears the functional group for the fatty acids. Okay, so kasama sa bilang itong C double bond O na yan. That makes it 18. Ito, so 18 yan. 18-0. And the identity of the second fatty acid here is 18-1. Bakit may 1? Kasi meron siyang isang double bond. Nevertheless, 18 pa rin yan, bibilangin natin. 18 pa rin yung carbon atom na yan. Okay, recall natin paano magbilang. So we have here the first carbon atom and each vertices of this line represents carbon atom. So dapat 18 ito. Okay? 18 carbon atoms. Okay? Now we have on the third fatty acid, we have 18-2 because of the presence of two double bonds and still 18 carbon atoms. Okay? Not necessarily na pare-parehas silang 18 kasi pag sinabi nating mix, magkakaiba daw yung identity. So, pwede rin dito na 16-0, okay, or dito is 14-0 for as long as the identity of these three fatty acids are different from each other in order for it to be classified as mixed triacylglycerol. Okay? Now, we also have classification according to the physical properties of these lipids or of this triacylglycerol. Now, we have fat and oil. Okay? So, fat and oil are triacylglycerol or they are lipids. However, they differ only in the physical state, melting point, and the prevalent fatty acid. For it to be considered as fat, okay, it is usually solid or semi-solid at room temperature. Okay, so, hindi sila liquid, semi-solid or solid sila. They have higher melting point. Mahirap silang i-melt kasi nga they exist as solid at room temperature because of their high melting point. Now, they usually are obtained from animal sources, so yung fats from animal sources, and the prevalent fatty acids that could be found in fats are saturated fatty acids. We recall that saturated fatty acid has carbon-to-carbon single bonds. Okay? Now, for oil, for it to be classified as oil, these are usually liquid at room temperature. They have lower melting point. Because of this property, itong lower melting point na to, kaya sila liquid at room temperature. So generally, they are obtained from plant sources, and the prevalent fatty acids that could be found in those oils are unsaturated. Let's repeat, unsaturated fatty acid has carbon-to-carbon double bonds. Okay? Now, both pure fat and pure oils should be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Okay? Pero bakit merong distinct taste ang isang fat and oil? It's because of the source. Okay? Pero kapag sinabi nating pure fat, they should be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Now, let's see here. Okay, these are the different types of fat and oils. And as you could see, with their content of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids, magkakaiba sila. Okay, so this is actually a mixture of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. But pag titignan natin, for these oils, okay, talagang prevalent sa kanila ang unsaturated fatty acids. Mababa yung saturated fatty acid. Kaya ang sinabi natin kanina, fats obtained from plants, ang prevalent ay unsaturated fatty acid. Pag sinabi naman prevalent, hindi naman totally sinasabi na sila lang ang present doon. Of course, meron pa ring unsaturated kasi mixture sila ng fatty acids. Okay? Well, as for fats, okay, pork fat, beef fat, butter fat, okay, mas prevalent naman ang saturated fatty acids. Kukunti lang yung mga unsaturated fatty acids. Now, when it comes to coconut oil, medyo madami ang kanyang saturated fatty acids, konti lang yung unsaturated. But still, it could exist as liquid at room temperature. It's not because of the double bond, rather, it is the short chain fatty acids. Because of these short chain fatty acids, kaya na-maintain niya yung being a liquid at room temperature. Okay? Now, another classification according to dietary considerations. We have what we call good fat and bad fat. Okay, pag sinabi nating bad fat, we have saturated fat. So, pag sinabi natin ulit saturated, it has carbon-to-carbon single bond. Okay? So, the saturated fat could actually increase heart disease risk. While as good fat, ang prevalent sa kanya ay monounsaturated fat, it could decrease the occurrence of heart disease and breast cancer. Okay? Now, for polyunsaturated, kasi pinag-usapan natin dito, isa saturated, may isa monounsaturated. Pag sinabi namang polyunsaturated, it could either be good or bad. So, it could reduce daw the heart disease, but some of them promote risk of certain type of cancer. Now, for the dietary fat, high in good monounsaturated fatty acids include, ito yung mga yun, olive oil, avocado oil, canola oil. Now, this monounsaturated fat still could reduce the stickiness of the blood platelets. It could also prevent the formation of blood clots. Now, for the tree nuts, which is also a good source of monounsaturated fatty acids, okay, their low amount of saturated fatty acids are not the only reason why nuts could help reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. So, hindi lang din naman itong mga low level of saturated fatty acid. Rather, meron din sila pang ibang content like antioxidant, vitamins, minerals, and of course, the plant fiber and protein. Okay, so hindi lang sila accounted, yung pagiging good fat niya is not only accounted to the low level of saturated fatty acids, rather dahil din dun sa mga iba pa niyang content. Okay, so we have here the list of nuts. We have almonds, cashew, and we could really see that they have low level of saturated fatty acids. But of course, we also have to take them. Everything that we eat should always be taken in moderation. Kaya para maging healthy diet. Okay? Now, another classification, meron tayong tinatawag na omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Usually, the omega-3 fatty acids could be derived from fish oil and the omega-6 fatty acids could be derived from plant oil. Now, this diet with high omega-3 fatty acid could exhibit the low incidence of heart disease. Okay, so studies confirm that benefits can be derived from eating several servings of fish each week could actually confirm um, the low occurrence of heart disease. Now, not all fish contains the equal amount of omega-3 fatty acid. Okay, so pag yung mga cold water fish or usually known as the fatty fish like mackerel, tuna, and salmon, they contain more omega-3 fatty acids kasi nga they are producing more fatty acids to keep them insulated from cold. However, for leaner and warm water fish like cod, catfish, snappers, okay, so they contain lower omega-3 fatty acids kasi hindi naman nila kakailanganin kasi wala naman silang i-insulate na body from cold. Now, meron tayong mga supplements na sinasabi nila they contain omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, because of the fact that omega-3 could lower the incidence or the risk or the heart disease risk. Okay, kaya nagkakaroon na tayo ng supplements. Now, hindi sila nag-harvest ng maraming cold water fish just to produce these supplements. Rather, we have what we call genetic engineering, wherein scientists manipulates algae to synthesize the omega-3 fatty acids to answer the demand on the omega-3 fish oil supplements. So it's because of genetic engineering, so we could actually synthesize the omega-3 fatty acids, and that is with the help of the algae. Okay, another classification, we have what we called essential fatty acid. When we say essential, these are needed by the human body. However, we cannot synthesize them. So, what we have to do, we have to obtain them through dietary sources. So, kailangan nating ikain para magkaroon tayo because the body could not synthesize them. So, what are these essential fatty acids? We have linoleic and linolenic. Linoleic has 18 carbon atoms and 2 double bonds. It is very essential because it's a primary member of omega-6 acid family. It is essential because linoleic is used for the synthesis of arachidonic acid. Okay, arachidonic acid is a major starting material for eicosanoids, which are the substances that help regulate the blood pressure, clotting, and other important body functions. Now, another essential fatty acid is linolenic. It has 18 carbon atoms with 3 double bonds. Okay, so it is very important because linolenic is used for the synthesis of EPA or eicosapentaenoic acid and DHA or docosahexaenoic acid. These two are important because they are constituents of communication membranes of the brain and they are necessary for normal brain development. Okay? These two are also active in the retina of the eye. Okay. When these two essential fatty acids are missing in the diet, so the linoleic and the linolenic, the skin reddens and become irritated. And so infection and dehydrations are likely to occur. And the liver may develop abnormalities. However, if these fatty acids are restored, so nakuha na natin through diet, of course, the conditions will be reversed. So infants are especially in need of these acids for their growth. Okay, we have to take note that human breast milk has a much higher percentage of these essential fatty acids, the linoleic and the linolenic, as compared to the cow's milk. That's why in 2001, the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, gave the approval for the manufacturers of baby formula to add these fatty acids like the DHA and the AAA to the infant formula. So you could actually look at the labels, or in the commercials, meron na yung mga mga baby formula or milk formula na with DHA and ARA, or AA, arachidonic acid. Okay? Because these are very important for the brain and vision development. Okay. Another classification, we have what we call fat substitutes, or these are artificial fats. Okay, so these fat substitutes are low fat, low calorie food with the same richness of taste and creaminess of the texture, and of course the cooking properties of fat, but not classified as lipid. And of course, they are fat substitute because they do not give the negative effects associated with dietary fats, such as heart disease and obesity. Okay, so itong mga fat substitute nito are made in order to replace the fats, okay, but gives the same taste, pero hindi niya ibibigay yung calories na mag trigger ng heart disease and obesity. Okay, so we have calorie reduced fat substitute. Ang trade name niya ay Simplis. So these are made from fresh egg whites, and milk by microparticulation. So it can be digested and absorbed by the body. It could only provide 1.3 calorie per gram. So this Simplis is used as a replacement for fats in formulated foods such as salad dressings, cheese, sour cream, and other dairy products, or other daily products. Okay, so however, this Simplis is not suitable for frying or baking kasi nga it turns rubbery or rigid, or it forms gel when heated. So we could not see them at home because it's not available for home use. Rather, ginagamit lang siya ng mga manufacturers for the salad cheese manufacture. So hindi siya readily available sa market. Rather, ini-incorporate lang siya ng mga manufacturer para dun sa mga products na binibili natin. Now, another fat substitute is the calorie-free fat substitute, in the trade name Olestra. So Olestra is a trade name wherein it came from heating cottonseed or soybean oil with sucrose in the presence of methyl alcohol. So unlike Simplis, Olestra could not be hydrolyzed in the body because the digestive system nor they could not be hydrolyzed by the body's digestive enzymes, and it could not be processed by colonic bacteria. Therefore, could only pass through the digestive tract undigested. So this is used to replace fats and oils in foods such as shortenings, oil, margarine, snacks, ice cream, and other desserts. Olestra possess same properties as fats and oil, but it could interfere in the absorption of both dietary and body-produced cholesterol, thus may lower the total cholesterol level. However, rather, also it reduces absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. So it may cause also gastrointestinal irritation and abdominal cramping, diarrhea, or loose stool. Okay? Kasi hindi natin siya kayang i-digest. Okay? So our body enzymes and our colonic bacteria could not synthesize this product Olestra. Okay, we have terms that we encountered. Meron tayong tinatawag na fat-free. Yung mga consumer products natin nakatatak fat-free. Hindi ibig sabihin na wala na talaga silang fat. Rather, the fat content is actually less than 0.5 grams of fat per serving. So, when we say fat-free, hindi siya zero. Okay? Very negligible lang daw yung kanya. Less than 0.5 grams. When we say low fat naman, this means 3 grams or less fat per 50 grams of serving. And when we say reduced fat or less fat, it means at least 25% less of fat per serving than the regular food. And the calorie-free, hindi ibig sabihin wala na siyang ibibigay na calorie. Rather, it means it could only give 0.5 kilocalorie per serving. Okay, so do not get um, confused pag sinabing fat-free, hindi na walang-wala na. Meron pa rin. Okay, pero konti na lang.